Riding Side Saddle. It's Tammy.
And Lisa.
And we're back.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. We're back with...
You better believe we're back. Better believe your butt.
Your sweet bippy?
Yeah, your sweet bippy.
I don't know what a bippy is, but it's
probably
sweet.
your butt. That makes sense.
Well, we're back anyway.
Sweet bippies.
Yeah.
All around this place.
Wow. What happened to you? You were not like this 30 seconds ago.
You know?
What just happened?
We're talking about bippies.
Well, we're actually talking about women who run with the wolves. This season 6, oh man, it really has taken on a life of its own, and we're going to have to rein it in.
It has. I feel like a really great idea in theory is it's not working out exactly the way my mastermind had planned it. Mm-hmm. So we do need to make some modification.
Yeah, we've gone so far away from our original format that we're feeling a little bit like we're missing it.
Yeah, I do miss it.
Yeah, me too.
I miss having the conversation. I respect this book, and I respect the guidance. Right, like we know what we're going to be talking about week over week, so it like sends us down a guided.
That's a little more
journey.
Structure.
Yeah, but I also miss a little bit of our. Which is totally not me. The spontaneity and like the dynamic.
Yeah.
A little bit.
For sure.
So, plus with, my being out at the beginning of April, that also causes some issues that we weren't quite anticipating.
Sure.
So we're going to have to make some accommodation for that.
Yeah.
Because that's what Riding Side Saddle is.
It is. Yep. Life is happening, so we have to adjust. So.
Welcome to being a woman.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really good example to say, well, now this is top priority.
Yeah.
So now we got to figure it out.
Yeah, we have to adjust. So what we have decided to do is when Lisa has surgery at the beginning of April, we'll start our season break then.
Yep.
This book, we are not going to be done with this book.
No.
We are on chapter 6 tonight.
There's 16 chapters.
There are 10 more chapters.
Right.
We're not going to be finished with it. So rather than rush through it, or we had kicked around a couple of ideas, we could just continue the season, take a little break, and just pick up where we left off. We could start season 7 after a break and pick up the book where we left off. And then we realized that we really just miss us. Like the whole dynamic of Riding Side Saddle is shifted a little bit because we've been structured.
Yes.
And that's just not how we roll. So while we do like the topics that the book is bringing up and the stories are interesting and how it relates into modern life and things, that's really fun.
And our lives, honestly.
For sure.
Learning a whole ton.
Absolutely.
As this continues to carry on.
Right. We've also realized, though, that it's really heavy.
It's just a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's taking a lot of time. I've said before, like, I can't read this when anyone is home, so I'm having to do it either late at night when everyone is asleep, or, Josh is in bed and the kids aren't home or whatever, or, early in the morning, or I'm having to, like, steal away some time, which is stressful. So.
Well, and I think all of that,
yeah,
100%. I agree with you. Like from one week to the next, I'm having a hard time.
And it's every week
getting a chapter in because they're hard reads. In addition to that, like completely separate, there's reflection that happens within each of these chapters, and to allow it to sink in and really like take hold, it takes a little bit of time. Like I am still processing like 2 and 3 chapters ago. So like my process, my connecting to what I learned from that, it feels too rushed for me.
I would agree.
Yeah. So in order for me to like really, really just, get into the nitty gritty of it and understand what it means for my life and be able to communicate that,
you need more time.
I need more time.
And not have this be an every week thing.
Yes.
So we're going to take a break at the beginning of April. Lisa will recover from her surgery, and then we're going to start season 7 back at our old format.
Yep.
We've decided not to give up on this book, though.
Of course not.
We'll just
follow through with what we start. We might modify a little bit along the way.
Right. But so we'll just read this book a couple, 3 chapters at a time at the end of each season until we're finished then. So it'll be like our book club, but it will just be this one book.
Yep. It'll be a little bit elongated, but it will give it what it deserves.
Right.
And we'll have the flexibility within our episodes.
Right. Right. And I don't think this book so much builds on its like each chapter isn't building on the next, so we aren't going to lose momentum in the book.
I agree.
If we just stretch it out.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do. We'll just take a little break, pick up season 7 in April, and we'll start anew, and then we'll complete this book a little bit at a time at the end of the next several seasons.
Yep. Yeah. That sounds like a plan.
Good.
A new plan.
Yeah. Okay, so chapter 6.
Mm-hmm. Finding One's Pack, it's called. Belonging as Blessing. You're flipping to the front. So let me say it again. The title of the book is called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, PhD. We are on chapter 6, and it really talks about finding your pack. Right. Yeah. Finding where you fit, where you feel comfortable.
Right.
Like innately the way it's supposed to be. So traditionally I start out with talking about the fairy tale or folklore or fable that is shared as part of the book, and it's what the chapter is based off of. So this one in particular is based off The Ugly Duckling. Mm-hmm. I've known this story since I've been very little.
Sure.
I'm sure most people probably connect with it. I don't know that I knew it. I just knew the high points, right?
I didn't know all the details.
Right. There's a goose who ends up in a nest of a duck.
It's a swan.
Right. Maybe that
maybe you didn't actually know this story.
Doesn't sound that way. It is a swan.
It's a swan.
It is a swan. And I'm thrown off now. So
the egg gets somehow rolls out of the swan's nest and into the duck's nest.
Thank you.
That's how it starts.
And all of the duck eggs hatch.
Right.
Except for this particular egg that the mother continues to sit on and she continues to love and is waiting for to hatch.
But even in the egg form, the egg is much different.
Yes, it's much larger.
It's bigger, yes, right. And her fellow mama ducks are saying, just give it up.
Right, get rid of that thing.
Yeah,
It's a dud.
Not even, right. It doesn't even look right. Just get rid of it.
Right, but
she's like, no, right. I've been sitting all this time. I can sit a bit longer.
She held firm to that. She was very proud of all of her other baby ducklings as they were hatching.
Yeah.
And, aren't they good looking? She's so proud, and then she kind of turns around and puts her attention back on the egg that remained in her nest, and she's like, well, she's really getting hit from the other mother ducks in the yard.
A lot of pressure.
Yes.
Societal pressure.
There's something wrong here. What is wrong with that duck? What is wrong with that egg? It's not even a proper kind of egg at all. Mm-hmm. So she was already getting the hits way before the egg hatched.
Yeah.
But she really had spent her time tending to this egg, and she was like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing it. She said, I'm not worried about the amount of time that it took me, but do you know that scoundrel father of these ducklings has not come to visit me one time? like there's some stuff there, right? Like I'm doing
some
all of this
anger
work
and resentment,
and I'm sitting extra on this egg, and that motherfucker.
She called him a scoundrel, but whatever.
Waddling through. Never
without
waddled,
a care in the world.
Didn't even waddle back here one time.
Nope.
And eventually, she gets past that, but eventually the big egg begins to shudder and roll, and it finally breaks open, and out tumbles this ungainly creature. His skin was etched with curly red and white veins.
Red and blue veins.
Darn it. Did I drink too much tonight?
I don't know what happened to you.
Maybe. His feet were pale purple. His eyes were transparent pink. This looks nothing like the rest of her ducklings. No. Okay. No. So she's like, well,
maybe it's a turkey.
You're an interesting type. Yeah. Right? Maybe you are a turkey after all.
But in the right light, he's almost handsome.
I mean, he's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Like I worked so hard.
This is my baby. This baby.
Right. Yeah. This is my baby. Peculiar as he might be.
Yeah.
It's still mine. So,
but the other mama ducks were like, so we have enough mouths to feed.
Right.
We don't need this ugly one.
I'm not really having this.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a big ugly one. He was a mistake.
And she has to stand up for this little ugly duckling. He's not a mistake. He's going to be very strong, right? She recognizes the differences, but as a mother, right, to this unique little bird, she was like, "No, darn it,
back off!"
Right?
Yeah.
This is my baby
you're talking about,
right?
Yeah.
You'll see, he'll straighten out. She groomed the ugly duckling's feathers and licked his cowlicks and gave him love, and but he really, like, the ugly duckling took a severe amount of abuse.
Yeah, he was really being bullied.
Bit and pecked at, hissed and screeched at.
Yeah.
Like, he was very much tormented in the farmyard. And she tried. She tried really to protect him from that and to help support him. But ultimately, the mother duck was like, you know what,
I wish you would just go away.
This is too much.
She got frustrated.
I just really can't do this. You are very different than, the normal, and I just need you to leave.
So he does. Yep, he goes to the water's edge, and he lays there with his neck stretched out, and he sipped from the water every now and again.
Just to stay alive. Yeah. Like, he was barely alive at that point, because he had really taken a lot of beating.
He did.
Like physically and emotionally, being in a situation where, like, he was not wanted. Right. He was tormented.
Right. Then some geese come by.
Who continue to torment.
Yeah. Well, they got shot. So he ran off.
Yeah, but there was some torment to that too, wasn't there? Like, he was just
trying him an ugly thing.
Yeah, he was trying to find a space, right? Like, this is coming along. I guess I'll give this a try.
Right. So they called him ugly, but then they were like, "Hey, you want to come over to the next county with us? There's some unmarried geese over there."
Whoop whoop.
Right. So he thought that'd be a good idea till the other two got shot.
You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
And he hightailed it out of there with shots firing and dogs barking and
behind his bum,
right
behind his bitty.
Bippy. Wow, are you okay?
I don't know what's wrong with you right now. I feel like we should just start over. I don't know what's wrong.
I don't either.
Why don't you just take over? Because I feel now super self-conscious.
Do you need just a break? You need a minute to collect yourself?
I just need a hot little minute. Or my bitty.
Sweeten up your bippy over there.
Doesn't need any sweetening.
I don't know what's happening
to you. It's pretty sweet already.
Let me know when you're ready.
You can proceed.
All right, fine. So
fine.
We don't, without going, because this is how we end up going for so long. We take way too much time at the beginning. I feel like
I enjoy the stories.
I know you do, but we gotta.
Clearly, I'm getting them all wrong this time.
We have to keep going. So he runs into an old woman, and she was lucky to have found him. And
she has a hen and a cat.
Right.
They were
she
kind of
maybe they were not
little
nice.
Brood. Well, they're also kind of screwed up, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
They had a cross-eyed hen, and the cat was like very unkept,
and half dead, and
right.
Well, and he also this swan, he got stuck He went out into the lake, and it was cold, and at some point he gets frozen in the lake.
Yeah, that was
and then a farmer comes and gets him.
That was kind of the turn of this for him.
Okay, all right.
So that was after the cat and the crazy hen.
After the cat. Okay.
Yeah, because he was really abused there too.
He was.
He was just trying.
He just could not find his place.
It's like, dude, you guys are a bunch of misfits. Maybe I'll fit in here because clearly I'm a misfit. But they really abused him.
Right.
And then he was very down.
Went to the
he was
lake.
Sad and just kind of ready to give up.
Yeah.
He got frozen into the lake.
Right.
At that point.
Right. And then the farmer rescued him.
Busted him out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and was kind to him. But then it was springtime.
Yep.
And he's back on the lake.
Yep.
And he sees some swans flying overhead. He still doesn't know he's a swan.
No.
But he hears them calling. And he starts honking back. The first time he's ever honked.
Right.
Right. And it was like, You are my people. Wait for me. Look at me. Here I am.
Right. It resonated deeply within him. The nature.
He recognized his people.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but he wasn't able to see that group of swans because they were overhead and kind of bypassed him. But it did conjure up.
But when they saw
love.
him, though, then they started swimming towards him.
Yes.
And they then...
Right,
all
then
connected.
they united. Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. But there was a period of time kind of in between where he saw them initially.
For sure.
And then he's like, okay, that really brings up some things for me. Like, I think I might know my people, but now the opportunity isn't quite here until it came forward.
Well, and because he didn't trust it, right? Because everyone had been so mean to him.
He was still afraid. Right? Like, this feels like, but man, every experience that I've had so far was a shit experience.
Right.
Like, I just don't fit anywhere, so I'm almost afraid to even give it a try.
Right.
But he does.
He does. And when they come closer to him, when they're swimming to him, because he's been beaten down so much, he kind of puts his head down. And when he puts his head down, he sees his reflection in the water, and he sees how beautiful he is, and his snowy white feathers, and his beautiful eyes, and he didn't even recognize himself, but he looked just like the beautiful strangers, just like those he had admired from afar. So that's kind of where the story kind of ends there, right? He realizes who he is.
People.
He's with his people.
Right.
His egg had rolled out of the swan's nest into the duck's nest.
So really, that's what this whole chapter is about, is recognizing that it doesn't necessarily, just because you didn't necessarily fit the mold or weren't like everybody else.
Right.
Didn't mean that.
It doesn't mean you don't belong anywhere.
Right.
That's just not where you belong.
Right.
That place.
Right. And that happens.
And keep going until you find where you belong. So he had gotten to a place where he was like, that's it. If I die, I die. I don't even care anymore. This is ridiculous.
Well, he hadn't felt love.
Ever. Right. So when spring came and the swans came, and he saw then himself in a different light, when he saw how beautiful they were, and then he saw that he looked just like them, it changed everything for him.
Right.
And the girls on the farm, because remember he's with the farmer, they're excited because, there were 2, now there's 3. Right. So they were excited to see him.
Right, because he joined his crew.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of how that story ends. The Ugly Duckling.
I remember it. Like, I've known this story since I was a child. And it always kind of resonated with me, but I didn't know the full story, and it didn't really resonate with me to that depth.
Right.
Knowing now, having read the full story, goose, swan, whatever, Tammy. Like, it means a great deal.
Yeah.
Like,
the Ugly Duckling turned out to be the most beautiful, right? This big, beautiful, gorgeous, graceful swan.
So when I was young, a child, and I learned that story, I think the thing that I took out of it at that time and have always, like, kept in mind was things aren't always as they seem.
Right.
However, now reading this more in depth as a 50-year-old woman, I think that it adds layers of, yes, things are not always as they seem, but also your environment is a really significant factor
for sure
to that.
Right.
Like that aspect of exile, like, get out of here, we don't want you.
Right.
Like what that does.
You're more trouble than you're worth.
Yeah. What that really does.
Yeah.
And it feels like, from the very beginning that was his experience, but then it perpetuated, and then he started believing it himself, and he was really just like caught up in that cycle of I am unlovable, I don't have a place to fit. Like, he was very beaten down. It wasn't like he just kept going and said, I'm going to find my place, I'm going to find my people, if you don't want me, fuck you. Like, that's not how that went. And I think that part is the part that
stay here,
really
it's not
resonates.
safe for me.
Or even like, I don't have a place.
Yeah. Like,
I know it's not here and I have to get out of here because you are literally killing me. But I don't have a place to go. I'm not worthy of a place. I'm just gonna lie here until whatever happens.
Right.
Like that aspect of this
that's so
is
sad.
so real though. Like, that shit happens a lot.
Yeah. Oof. That's heavy.
Sorry. It does happen a lot though.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
So sometimes either you like put up with really poor relationships, because that's all you know.
Right.
Or you leave a relationship, but you can't find what you're supposed to, like the people that you're supposed to connect with, because you've never experienced it in a positive way.
Wow. So doing a lot of, the Ugly Duckling, that was a lot more about the outward appearance, right? But that is symbolic of the inward work that you have to do to find yourself. I mean, the swan could just look in the water and see his reflection, right? But really, you have to look inside,
right,
and see what you are, who you are, what you're made of. Then you can find your people, or they will find you.
Exactly.
Right?
Because for us as humans, right, like, they were all birds, but they were clearly different physical attributes, different breeds of, birds. So in the folklore, it was a little bit more easy to make those connections. Yes, I do fit. No, I don't fit.
Outwardly, the traits were outward.
But when we start to tie this to our experiences, like, I grew up in this environment, but I am not the same as you. We are. I don't even know where I came from, because everybody around me like says and thinks and does this, but I can't. I just can't. With every ounce of me, I can't.
I don't understand any of that.
Right. I'm just different than that. And there's no outward appearance that would indicate that.
Yeah.
It's an inward.
That is an inward
feeling.
For sure. And because this is women who run with the wolves, her focus really is on that story and how it translates into being a woman.
Correct.
Right? So again, like many concepts in this book, it applies to being human generally, but she's specifically talking about women. So that's where the focus is.
Yep.
She talks about like girl children who display a strong instinctive nature often experience significant suffering in early life, because if shit says from an early age, from the time they're babies, they're taken captive, domesticated, told they're wrong-headed and improper when their wildish natures show up early. Yeah. So trying to tame that wild child, right? Yeah, they're curious, artful, have general eccentricities of various sorts, ones that, if developed, will continue the basis for their creativity for the rest of their lives. Considering that the creative life is the soul's food and water, this basic development is excruciatingly critical. So when that is squashed, so we can have nice girls.
Well-behaved.
Right, right. That's...
kind.
Yeah.
Right.
But
calm.
It's terribly detrimental.
Right.
Yeah.
To the growth and development of that person.
Absolutely. Right. The girl begins to believe she's weak, ugly, unacceptable, and this will continue to be true no matter how hard she tries to reverse it. Like the ugly duckling.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Because when that type of information is delivered to you in those really important and fundamental periods of time, like
your formative years,
you continue to look for that same situation or that same feeling, to repeat that over and over and over through the remainder of your life.
Right.
And unwittingly, right? Because you're like, oh, that was terrible. I hated that. I don't want that in my life. But then what do? Like, it's a magnet.
Well, right, because it's something you're familiar with, so it's comfortable.
Correct.
You don't like it, but
Correct.
but you know it. You know how to be in that place, so you keep finding situations that are similar, because humans like
familiarity,
the status quo.
Right. What's normal.
Yeah. Right. She says that neither the child's soul nor her psyche can accommodate this, the pressure to be adequate. That can chase the child away or underground, or set her to wander for a long time looking for a place of nourishment and peace. That just sounds like being set up for a lifetime of discontentment, of I'm never enough,
having to prove yourself,
unhappiness.
Maybe this person,
the people pleasing.
That, like maybe this set of experiences or this particular person will love me,
right?
But you like set it up in a way that it's not even possible, because you're gravitating to that duckling family,
right?
And you don't even know it. You're like continuing to find the same
duck,
thing,
but you're not,
and say, "Damn it, love me,
right?
Love me, accept me for who I am."
I can't because you're not like me.
Yeah,
right. That's what they keep getting over and over again.
Right, go away.
I could love you.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
If only you weren't white and big and ugly.
Right.
Yeah. But you are all those things, so what do you want from me?
Either change it,
which you can't do,
or get out of here.
Right. Right. Heaps. So the next section, she talks about the different kinds of mothers.
Right. And she starts to analyze really the duck mother.
Yeah.
And, what she tried to do in protecting that child up front, that swan / hoping to be a duckling. And how that does play out too in our culture, right? Like when these littles are displaying things that are inappropriate in accordance to what culture, defines as appropriate versus inappropriate, like, and mothers, their instinct, my instinct, had been to like protect that child. There's nothing wrong, or yeah, it's a little different. Okay, that person's needs are different. Like man, like talk about ruffling some feathers, right? Because you start talking about my kid, and we got some real problems. I am for sure licking my knuckles, for sure,
right?
And she tried, and she tried, and she tried, and she advocated, and she spoke up for, and she held out all of the hope, And then ultimately she just caved to
the mom duckling
the culture.
Or duck did. Yeah.
Right.
So there are the different kinds of mothers that she focuses on, Clarissa focuses on in this chapter. It says, so the duck is representative of all at the same time, an ambivalent mother, a collapsed mother, and
Keep going, Tam. Keep on.
Again, it's nice out. It's March. I get it. People are showing off on their motorcycles. All right. So we've got the ambivalent mother,
yes,
collapsed mother, and an unmothered mother. So there's those three.
And it's all consumed into the mother duck.
It is, right. So she then goes on to dissect those three different categories of mother. Starting with the ambivalent mother. She's talking about how it's not uncommon in punitive cultures for women to be torn between being accepted by the ruling class and loving her child, whether it's actually a human child, right, or a symbolic child, creative child, biological child. Women have died psychically and spiritually for trying to protect the unsanctioned child, whether it be their art, their lover, their politics, their offspring, or their soul life. At the extreme, women have been hanged, burned, murdered for defying the village prescriptions and sheltering the unsanctioned child.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the extremes happened, and
sure.
I didn't feel that, but
right,
but I do feel and have felt through, and it. I'm glad that you spoke about, the quote unquote child. It doesn't necessarily have to be a true human offspring.
Yeah, right.
It can be a partner. It can be a creative venture. Anything that looks outside of the norm of what you should do,
right,
who you should be with.
Right.
This isn't appropriate. And you're like, motherfucker, like, I don't have to abide by all of these things. Like, but you do, you put up to, what is the phrase?
Put up or shut up?
Yeah.
No?
I don't remember. I'm having problems with words today. I'm not wording very well today. And I usually don't, but it's extra worse today. It's just like to get along. Like you have to
go along to get along.
Yeah, you have to like figure out like, it's so hard to have this venture that's outside of the realm of norm, or it's so difficult to engage with my family when I have a relationship with this person who doesn't fit into my family. And, they've told me 1,000 ways that this person is not appropriate. Like they make it, very, very clear.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard, like, because
you're always defending yourself.
You want to fight it, right? Because you need to advocate for yourself, but you also need to like figure out that aspect, that go along to get along,
right,
type of thing.
Right.
Like, fine, it's just not worth it to me anymore.
Right.
So
she says when a woman has this ambivalent mother construct in her own psyche, she may find herself giving in to it easily.
Yes.
Just what you're saying.
Yeah.
She may find herself afraid to take a stand, to demand respect, to assert her right to do, learn, live in her own way. Yeah.
And what's interesting, I'm not going to get like way down into the rabbit hole, but what's interesting, the examples of this that I can think of in my life, I did that part over and over and over to be like, don't tell me who I can love and who I can, like, who I have to, like, the characteristics of, don't tell me that. And then it fell apart. And then I'm like, all right, well, let's try. And then I found myself in another situation, like, once again, having to like defend and try to figure out a way to navigate outside of the constructs of that, that subculture.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just fighting that over and over in different scenarios, it is exhausting. But I find it interesting that, like, I can grab a whole handful of things that I continued to do and be like, damn it, not this time. And then I would submit. No, God damn it, I'm doing it my way. And then I'd submit, right? Mm-hmm. Like, even just that ambivalence aspect was a consistent theme for me.
Right. I can see that. I see that in myself too. And sometimes it feels like, well, I just need to make room for someone else, right? It can't always be about me all of the time, which is, I think, true. So then I give in.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm making room for someone else.
Right.
There might be a really fine line there, though.
Because you're also selling yourself short, too. You're like, it's not a situation of we can both coexist and be happy with the outcome. It's I have to give away who I am or this part that's very important to me in order to satisfy somebody else's needs. And like
that doesn't
sucks.
feel good.
It's either this or that. Mm-hmm. And that
doesn't
sucks.
feel good at all.
Right.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Anyway, I don't want to get stuck there because I know I really, really could.
For sure. Well, she says that for a mother to happily raise a child who is slightly or largely different in psyche and soul, in that mainstream culture, she must have a start on some heroic qualities herself. She must be able to, much like the heroines of myths, she must be able to find and obtain these qualities if they are not allowed, to shelter them and then unleash them at the right time, to stand for herself and what she believes. There's almost no way to make oneself ready for this other than to take a deep draught of courage and then act. Yep, that sounds like a big old gulp.
Yeah, it is. Very quickly. So although I have many, many examples of different situations, whether they were relationships with, love interests or creative ventures or, fill in the blank, I think the biggest one that stands out for me is Elizabeth. I have known, like my heart has known, that Elizabeth has had something different about her from the very get-go. Her needs are different. Her motivators are different. What drives her is different than what I had experienced with anybody that I've known. And year after year after year, even before she started school, like it already started in daycare, like I would have to come toe to toe with the institution, whatever that was, and advocate for her and like have hard conversations with people in, quote unquote power in these types of arenas, to be able to make the space for her. Now, I did do that and I fucking dreaded it. Like every parent teacher conference, I would sweat it for weeks knowing it was coming up. And she teases me now because I would bawl. I would cry at every single one. And it was embarrassing for her, right? But man, like all of my love and all of my anger and frustration would come out in those situations. Yeah. But along with doing that, I also tried to like make her fit. Like I would put pressure on her too. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I would advocate for her and say, listen, you need to you need to modify your approach, or she needs
Make
something
some room
different.
for her.
And
Yeah.
but then I'd also be like, listen, like chip off those edges, right?
Right.
Like remove that so you
just
fit.
stopped this and did that.
Yes. So
I wouldn't be crying at your teacher conference.
right. Just do it. Do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But she definitely, like, I didn't put any of this together until we're sitting here talking about this. But she's definitely a swan in an egg, in a duck nest.
Yeah.
Nest.
A swan in a duck world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Whew.
That's all I have.
See, this is why we need a little more time.
We do.
With this book, because you need for things like that to be able to sit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this will sit for quite some time.
Sure.
And then I'm going to have to go back and read this chapter with that
in mind. Yeah. Right. But if we're so busy to get to the next chapter, you don't have time to go back and reread it and take it in a different way. Yeah. So it's good that we're going to spread this out. Well, the next section is on the collapsed mother. So when the mother duck can no longer withstand the harassment, that's when she's like, oh, I wish you would just leave. So when a woman has a collapsing mother construct within her psyche and or her culture, she is wobbly about her worth. Mm-hmm. Gulp. She may feel that choices between fulfilling outer demands and the demands of our soul are life and death issues. She may feel like a tormented outsider who belongs nowhere, which is relatively normal when you're in exile, but what's not normal is to sit down and cry about it and do nothing. So that's when you collapse, when you just sit down and do nothing, when you're frozen in the pond and that's it.
So now I have to make the connections. So the swan's duck mother collapsed.
Yeah.
Because she didn't have enough self-worth to continue to fight. She succumbed to the cultural expectations and said, listen, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, you have to go.
You have to go.
Leave.
And it probably completely broke her to come to that place. She was truly collapsed. And then the swan itself
also
ultimately collapsed, saying, I can't keep doing this.
I can't do this anymore. I've tried to fit in everywhere I can think of, every place I go, and it's not working. So having no self-worth left, I'll just sit in this pond and freeze to death.
So what that says to me is that this is a behavior that is a learned behavior. If you're in an environment where your mother is expressing a collapsed mother types of behaviors, you're more apt to do that yourself.
I think that's exactly what she's saying, to the point where she's saying that if a woman has a collapsing mother, she must refuse to become one to herself also.
Because that's what happens.
Right. That's what you know.
This is the only thing I know.
Right.
So those types of people who like either you're a fighter or you freeze or you fawn, like those are learned behaviors.
Sure.
And to hear maybe a style that's different than yours in those unsafe environments, like it almost sounds like, what? Like how? No, I would never respond that way. But it was not because it may very well be because that's what you saw, and that's how you do it, because that's what you saw.
That's all you know.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, she said there are no two ways about it. A mother must be mothered in mothering her own offspring. Though a woman has an inalienable spiritual and physical bond with her offspring, in the world of instinctual wild woman, she does not just suddenly become a fully formed temporal mother all by herself. I really felt that very deeply. I can remember when my kids were little thinking, if I had someone to nurture me, I would be better at nurturing my children. I just don't have any more to give.
Right.
I need somebody to take care of me so I can take care of them. But that just wasn't my reality.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure I would have been lacking in some way anyway, right? Like you just do. You can't get it always right all of the time.
No, you can't. But that was prominent to you.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm wounded.
Yes.
And I'm trying really hard to mother these children from a wounded place.
Right. Knowing full well that this is not going to end well if I can't figure out how to nurture myself while I'm nurturing my children.
Right. She goes into some detail here, and I'm not gonna like read verbatim, but she talks a bit about kind of the tribal aspect of mothering historically.
Yes.
To like there were roles for older women who had mothered their children to come around a young mother and say, this is how you do it, and this is what you need to be able to support yourself, and let me care for and teach and mentor. And that's just a concept that has completely gone away. She called it at one point the goddess mothers, which then translated to what we know as godmothers.
Oh, yeah.
In current times. But the role changed. It wasn't, let me help you be a mother and let me care for you during the really hard phases of being a mother. Let me mentor you. That's not at all what a godmother is.
Not in today's language.
No, it changed dramatically to be able to hold space to make sure that a child continues in a religious journey.
Right.
From that perspective.
Completely different.
Right.
I can remember one of our aunts talking about when she was young and having babies. Her grandma would come. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
She would come and stay with her for a period of time after the baby was born. And she loved it.
Yeah.
Because her grandma would make food that was just for her.
She would get nurtured.
That is exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
She said my grandma would make soup and it was just for me. I didn't have to share it with anybody. She made meals that were just for me. All I had to do was eat this delicious food and take care of this new baby. I didn't have to. She took care of the other kids. She did everything else, all of the cleaning and the laundry. She took care of me.
She handled
so
it.
I could take care of my baby.
Right.
Right.
We are missing that. Dramatically
And when
missing.
I was having my babies, I was thinking the same thing without knowing any of that history. Like, I really could use somebody to help me with the, like, take care of me so I can take care of the baby.
Right.
And not even just babies, but even when they were older, like, I just need someone to take some of this burden from me so I can take care of myself and my children.
It's hard.
It is hard.
And we have developed a culture to say, well, tough shit. This is the bed you made.
Yeah.
You better fucking get in there.
That.
Because this is it. Like, you don't have a choice now.
Bring home the bacon and fry that up in the pan too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do not support our mothers in any way.
No, we don't.
Ugh.
Well, all right. So where do you want to go? Do you want
Well, let's just kind of
finish
go
this little bit?
let's just kind of go towards the end actually of the chapter, because this is kind of repeat in a lot of different, examples, to be able to say where there's wounding, right? You are going to repeat that.
For sure.
But ultimately the end of this fable or fairy tale is to talk about finally when somebody does truly find their people, like that creates something in you that it's not misguided. And there are often times where people find themselves in a situation of I don't belong here, and they do have to journey and continue and move forward until they do find where that resonates.
Mm-hmm. So that she talks about that exile as boon. Like, it's actually maybe not a bad thing to be in exile.
Right.
Yeah. That even though there are negative aspects to it, the wild psyche can endure exile. It makes us yearn that much more to free our own true nature that causes us to long for a culture to match. Even this yearning, this longing makes a person go on, makes a woman go on looking. If she cannot find the culture that encourages her, then she usually decides to construct it herself. You know what? I can't find what I need. I'll just make it up.
Enter riding side saddle.
Exactly. I literally wrote in the margin RS.
I love that.
Yeah. And that is good, for if she builds it, others who have been looking for a long time will mysteriously arrive one day, enthusiastically proclaiming that they have been looking for this all along.
Do you know that we had... So yes. Oh, I just lost my page. Yes. All of that is true. We had somebody from the Netherlands today, I noticed.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, like our people...
They're finding us.
They're far and wide.
Welcome, Netherlands.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It's far and wide.
Yay. I love that. I feel like this is a good place to end this chapter.
I agree.
Yeah. She goes into some other
concepts.
Yeah.
She had created a story herself that, like, through her therapy would, like, talk about how inadvertently sometimes your soul just gets placed with the people who don't necessarily fit, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to take that on as something like terrible
Wrong
about them or terrible about you.
Right.
It's just it just doesn't fit, and
right.
you have to get up and figure out where you fit.
Right.
In every sense of that.
Absolutely.
In every sense of that. It doesn't mean, like, always. I'm not putting it, outside of the possibility, but it doesn't always mean, like, get up and, like, don't speak to anybody you've grown up with in your whole life.
No.
It doesn't always mean that.
It doesn't mean you have to cut people out.
It means that those pieces of you that are lacking, that feel alone, that don't feel connected.
Different.
There are people, there are connections to that. You just have to keep looking.
Right.
You find your people, and then the hum happens.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, all right. I think we'll end chapter 6 right there.
Okay. We will.
And then, so we will pick up on chapter 7 at the end of episode 7.
Yes.
I'm sorry, season 7.
Season 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 7 in season 7.
Yeah. And we're going to do a couple of little snacks in between for while I'm out. So we'll probably talk about this again in between, just to kind of keep you moving along and recognizing the quick left turn we made.
Yeah. So we're going to, we'll get back on our path.
It's all right. It's all right.
It is okay.
We had to go through a little bit of grass and,
it's okay.
On the mountain edge, a little bit on the cliff.
Lisa likes to be on the edge.
We're coming back, though.
I'd rather be on a nice, calm path.
I see the path. It's right over there.
Yeah, over that mountaintop, full of danger.
Across the gorge.
Yeah. Yes. That Grand Canyon? It's nothing.
Not a big deal.
It's nothing. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. All right, everyone.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you to Todd.
Yes.
With Mind Garden Media.
Always.
For always taking care of us and helping us through the editing process, getting this published. We sincerely appreciate you every single time.
Every time.
Which is why we talk about you every single time.
Right.
Because we truly, to the depths of our heart, appreciate it.
For sure.
And then our listeners. Man, it fills me straight up.
I know. I totally agree.
Every time it fills me straight up. So please share it. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be with all of social media. If you have a friend who, like, this resonated and, like, I know exactly who they're talking about, fucking have a conversation.
Yep.
Right? Like,
for sure.
Listen, I thought of you today. You should take a listen to this episode. And those are the connections, right? That's what we're doing all this shit for.
Right. For sure. Creating what we were missing.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. With our people.
For sure.
Our
a
tribe.
Place to share things, talk about things that aren't talked about.
Yeah.
Or not talked about enough, maybe.
Right. All of that.
Yeah.
All right, friends.
All right, then. Till next time.
Bye.
Toodaloo.